You can support me on Patreon for just $1 a month.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's your Horror Master Christian Hanna Horror here. By the way, this is going to be the new attire. I will be wearing this lovely sports type coat with a horror pin. And as you can see, we've got the perfect horror pin for today's video. I want to say something. I want to go on record and say, first off, real quick, here's the beautiful Return of the Living Dead 2 poster from Scream Factory from the pre-order. This video is about a movie called Return of the Living Dead Part 2, and I want to go on record and say this. I want to thank Scream Factory personally, from me, Christian Hanna Horror, saying thank you for giving one of my favorite horror movies credibility. That's right, Scream Factory, when they decide they put something out, to me, it's the equivalent of making it the world champion. It's giving a movie credibility, and that's something this movie so rightfully deserves, is credibility. Return of the Living Dead Part 2, a movie that gets overlooked so much because of how great the predecessor was. One of the greatest horror movies, in my opinion, the greatest zombie movie ever made, Return of the Living Dead. But Part 2 takes a different avenue. It almost does the same thing. Two characters are the same. They're the same people, but they're in a different alternate reality. Kind of weird. But there's this side storyline with the kids that is so great. This movie is a fun watch. It's a great zombie film. The effects look great, and it's fun. Return of the Living Dead 2 is a great Saturday night, Friday night movie when you want to just hang out, have nothing to do, you want to just chillax and watch a movie where you can just feel good. And that's what Return of the Living Dead 2 is. And we now get from Scream Factory the credibility edition, what I like to call it, of Return of the Living Dead Part 2. Obviously, with every Return of the Living Dead Part 2 edition, you can reverse the artwork, is what I've done. And let's look on the back at the special features of this edition. Okay, the first thing we have is new 2K scan, obviously, original theatrical soundtrack, author, original theatrical soundtrack, which is great because that's something we haven't seen in a long time. If you have the original Laserdisc or original VHS, obviously, but the DVD altered some things. New audio commentary with actress Suzanne Snyder. You may remember her from Killer Clowns from Outer Space. New audio commentary with Gary Scott, co-author of The Complete History of the Return of the Living Dead, a fabulous book. Filmmaker Christopher Griffiths. New featurette with special effects supervisor Kenny Myers and more. Kenny Myers was great because he came in at the 11th hour on the first Return of the Living Dead and then got the job for the second one and did some great things in Part 2. New featurette with writer-director Ken Wiederhorn. That is the director, and that's something I'm really interested to see because Ken was not a guy who wanted to do horror movies. He took the job because he kind of could try to make it comedy, but he was not enthused by this type of movie, and he was not enthused by horror in general. So it's going to be very interesting to get his retrospective now. They Won't Stay Dead, a look at Return of the Living Dead Part 2 and more. They Won't Stay Dead, a look at Return of the Living Dead Part 2 was something that was on the More Brains documentary, which not a lot of people saw. Great documentary, and that's going to be something I've seen More Brains look at Return of the Living Dead Part 2. Very good and very enjoyable. Guys, I just wanted to show you this. I'm so proud to own this because this is a movie that finally, like I said, gets the credibility it so rightfully deserves. Go get this at Scream Factory. Return of the Living Dead Part 2, one of my favorite movies of all time. Christian